vlog a day. Today is Sunday, the 11th, and today was a lovely, beautiful day out. Got up this morning, got a few things taken care of, nothing major. Ended up hanging out outside for a while. Just wanted to let Karen sleep a little longer. Dog's pretty happy and hyper in the morning, so went ahead and thought, hey, I'll spend some time out here with the pair of them and basically just kind of keep it quiet inside the house for her. So I went ahead and grabbed myself some chocolate milk and the fun little stuff, and I was gonna grab my iPad and watch something, and I completely just went off and forgot it. So I just listened to a podcast or two and hung outside, let her sleep in. She got up and got kind of started the day. We didn't have really anything planned for the day per se. We were hoping to go see a house that we were wanted to see for a rental market, and it turns out that the house is sitting on pillars and straps and so skirting around it. So we believe that our finance company will not finance a house at that value. It won't finance the house at any value technically. And unfortunately, the house is only like, I don't know, maybe a quarter at most of the value of the property, and it might be even less than that, because I think the land itself is worth the asking price, truthfully, with the outbuildings, the barns, and all the stuff on it. So we got to decide if we're going to try and do creative financing some other way, by maybe just taking a mortgage out on a house we already own, or what we're doing with that whole process. So I don't know, it is what it is. So other thought was, maybe if it's only like $3,000 or so to throw a true foundation underneath the house and get it off the pillars and get it off the hurricane straps, then I might be able to get it financed to the company, and that would be something I can just throw the money out front and finance that part. But we'll see, who knows. Went ahead though, didn't hear from her. We kind of expected to hear from the morning, didn't hear from our agent, and it's one of those things where she's a decent agent, but every once in a while there's things like this that she makes promises that she forgets, and it seems like those happen more in the evening than they do. Like if she makes a promise at noon, it almost always comes true. If she basically says she's going to do something and it's past 5 o'clock in the afternoon, much less likely to get done. I don't know if it's like that wine memory, if she gets a little bit drunk and forgets that what she said she was going to do. I don't know. So that's why I try and put everything in text and message, so then she can go back and look at it and see, hey, I was supposed to do something, and here it is. But she is really bad about, wants to call and talk all the time, which I understand, trying to make it a little more personable, but when you tend to forget things, there's a reason why I put it in that. So didn't hear from her. I was planning on trying to see it and go get a look at it today, and said she'd let me know first thing in the morning, either way, what was going on. Didn't hear from her. Finally went around, screwed around stuff, this and that, got a few things in the house. Karen happened to look on Yelp and saw that a Chinese buffet restaurant in New Smyrna that we like to go to looks like it's open by the Yelp reviews. So went ahead, she decided she wanted to go there. I usually just psych myself up to go to a buffet at all because of germs and disgusting kids and people all grabbing the tongs and the spoons and all this shit. It takes a lot for me to, I'm a bit of a germaphobe when it comes to my food and how it's prepped and how it's taken care of. And I've seen a lot of buffets that are really bad, and it makes me nervous. So went ahead, but then you add COVID onto it and it becomes extra scary for me. So, but I wanted to make her happy, trying to do what I can to basically cheer her up. And she has not had Chinese buffet since probably March. It's been easily 6 months. So went ahead and said hell with it. Got up, got dressed, decided to go have lunch there. I'm not sure if it's just Sunday lunch they raised their price, but we got there, and they had a mask required when you're walking in the restaurant. When you're eating, clearly the mask is off. All the staff's wearing masks. They actually give you a little plastic glove, like a little like one of those non-very well-fitting, like really floppy-looking glove that you put on your hand that you're going to use the utensils with. So you walk around with that gloved hand, and then you get back to the table, you take the glove off, and it is what it is. It's not the most thing, because they only give you the one glove. So you're supposed to put that same glove back on and go back up, which is fine, except taking the glove off your hand, you're touching it with your other hand. So it becomes a thing. My wife loves to eat with her fingers, and she often will lick her fingers and stuff. And I try to get her not to do it, especially buffets and stuff. We don't have wet wipes and stuff at the table, or washing your hands and whatnot. And then you add in the COVID, becomes another thing too. And she wasn't licking her fingers, at least this time, but she was eating a lot of stuff with her fingers. And I'm just like, God damn, we have forks, we have stuff for a reason. And if you got to have ribs, either pull it off with the knife and fork or whatever normally, but she wants to use her fingers and eat it that way. So she ended up having crab ragoons, and just little things that really I love her, and I'll go back if she wants to go back, but it's just a little bit extra that adds stress to me, and it kind of adds a little bit of the just that anxiety into my life. But food was all right. There was a handful of things missing. They had probably, I don't know, a third of the the buffet was closed out, maybe a little more than that. And the sushi, normally it's a giant, it's usually about, I don't know, 6 feet or so of sushi, and it was 1 foot of sushi, so that kind of sucks. And the sushi they had there was, they're not going through a lot. I understand they're not real busy yet, so they can't put it all out. But the number one thing I always want when I go there is the coconut shrimp. And I will get usually 3 or 4 helpings of that. And everything else is just okay. Their coconut shrimp is phenomenal. And there was no coconut shrimp on the menu or on the buffet. And I'm sure it's not their cheapest thing they put out there. And I was trying to be the dick of hey, put coconut shrimp out or we're leaving kind of thing. But I was like, just come on. So I kind of, hinted towards, hey, can I buy a batch of coconut shrimp to take home? And then I don't want the egg rolls, I want the rice on that. I was like, hey, can I just get a small batch of that to take with me? How much would it be? They're like, $14.99, full meal. And I'm like, no, I don't. I just like a tub of this. $14.99, only way to sell it, a whole meal. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I'm like, whatever. So I went ahead and I should have just said, well, then put it on the buffet because it was there before kind of thing. But next time I go there, I'll probably call ahead and ask them. I got some other stuff I want to ask them. They got us eating paper plates, plastic forks, styrofoam cups. God damn it. I'm paying $30 for a meal for the 2 of us. I don't want to be drinking out of styrofoam. It just pisses me off. So I'm going to ask, hey, can I bring my own plate, forks? I use chopsticks 99% of the time, so it's not a big deal. Actually, I never touched the fork at all there, so the plastic fork did not affect me. But for my wife, trying to pull meat off the ribs, if she would have wanted to do that instead of picking it up and eating it by hand, it would have been a different scenario in there too. So I'm going to basically call and go, hey, can I bring my own glass of water? Can I bring my own fork and knife and, plate? Because I hate eating out paper plates. It's wasteful. I understand it is. And it's cleaner, they think, than blah, blah, and stuff. But the way the plates are stacked there, if somebody walks by, any one person happens to cough or sneeze or gets out past the mask, there's germs all over those plates. And now nobody's going to wash them. They're just going to sit there for weeks. And there's a lot of issues that I have with it. I'll bring my own shit in. No big deal. But we'll see what they say there. But I'm also going to ask them, hey, can you go ahead and throw me on some coconut shrimp on the buffet? And if they say no, then I'm going to have to, decide whether I want to spend $30 for the 2 of us to eat here, for a mediocre buffet without my favorite, thing. Because normally I would eat I bet half of the food I'd eat would be the coconut shrimp. The stuff's just delicious. And then another probably 25% of what I would eat that day, maybe more, was sushi. And then a little bit of everything else. I'd take a half a spoon of the, broccoli and, the different things stuff. And that stuff wasn't as good. I want to go there, I'm going to eat this. So I might one of these days just swing through and grab some coconut shrimp for the full meal at $12.99 or $14.99. Take it home and eat it, and it'd be the same, cost as the buffet anyway, But I'm just getting the one, and I don't have any sushi. I don't get any of the extra, stuff. So it is what it is. But went ahead, got done there, headed back home. There was the house we wanted to look at. We still hadn't heard from her yet. There was the guy had a car and a motorcycle sitting out front. So I thought, hey, why don't we stop? We'll pretend we're looking at the car and the bike a little bit, and then if the guy happens to be there, I'll call him. Has to be there, he can walk out because the gate was open. It's got a big heavy-duty metal gate and stuff on it. I thought, hey, we'll just, say, notice your house for sale too. Any chance to walk around, look at the backyard at least, blah, blah. Because I don't care so much about the house. I care about the property, the yard, the size of it and stuff, and all the amenities. And see if I can't get some insight from the actual owner, which is always nice when you're buying something to actually speak to the owner, not just a real estate agent. Because the owner's been there. They know what's going on a little more. They're more likely, you can see the look in their eyes of fear when you ask them, how's the septic system? They're like, it's great. Yeah, great. Yeah, it's great. So it's that whole thing. So didn't happen. So on the way back, when we left the restaurant, it was pouring down rain, and nobody was going to walk in there and talk to us about a car or bike, nothing, with it pouring down rain like that. So we didn't even bother stopping, and got back home. On the way back, I basically texted the real estate lady and said, hey, what'd you find out about the house? We kind of expect to hear from you. We're now late in the afternoon. We're not late in the afternoon. We're well past noon. It gets early. It's midday now, and I still haven't heard nothing from you. So she basically said it's a no-go. It's a mobile home still. And I'm like, well, I don't give a shit. Telling her, and she puts this whole thing. She actually leaves me voicemails and stuff. I'm like, just fucking text me. It's noisy. I don't want to, talk on the phone right now. You know where I'm at. I text you something. So I text back, what is the foundation? How is it tied to the ground? Because it sounds like if it has a foundation on it, it counts as a modular home, not a mobile home. Send her back and forth and yada yada. She comes back with basically it has straps and skirting. So finally got there. I think she took long enough. I think she had to call the agent and get that information again because I don't think she got the information properly. So it is what it is. But she gets that way once in a while. Find a place that we kind of are interested in, and she'll kind of poo-poo on it. So I don't know if it's agents she don't like or if she thinks that if she can get us to buy one of the houses, she's a listing agent, she gets to double her commission. So I'm not really sure there. So I got to figure out a little more with that, because if that continues getting annoying, we'll have to maybe look for another agent, because that's not good. But went ahead, gave up. We're like, okay, we're not looking at the house then, no big deal. Kind of went on their day. Karen had to leave early. She was going to her cousin's service. She's the one that died of COVID here a while back, and she had to run away up to Ormond to grab her father, and he's been not doing well at all. Leg's been really messed up and whatnot. So that's just not fun. It's not, but it is what it is. Went ahead and found out as she left to go get him, to bring him back down to Port Orange to go to the service, and I had to run my way back up and so on and so forth. She called, luckily, and said, hey, just want you to know I'm heading up, blah, 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 whatever. And he decided he didn't feel good enough to go. So he decided to stay home, not go, which then, it's like, she'd known that early, so I actually joked about taking a nap. And I'm like, you got 15 minutes before you leave, why don't we lay down and take a nap real quick? How long a nap do you need? And she laughed. And had she called her dad right then, we could have laid down and took a nap for the next hour, and she would have been much more rested the whole day, but it is what it is. So went ahead, they came pick the dog up. That went fairly smoothly. From there, she headed up to go to the service. Got back from it. I sat outside, watched some Hulu and Netflix, and basically just chilled out with Bruce. We hung out outside, beautiful, beautiful weather. Talked to my mom on the phone some, all the fun that comes with it. Karen got back to the service. Everything went well. There was a rift in that family over a divorce kind of thing and stuff that's seems to be getting squashed out now. So we'll see what happens with that whole thing as it plays out over the next chunk of time. But it is what it is. We got back, hung out, talked a little bit. She went and got showered and got cleaned up. Just a little extra precaution after being around a bunch of people at the service kind of thing. Everywhere mask, it sounds like. They tried to stay back from each other as best they could. All that comes with that fun stuff of the COVID world. But she went ahead and basically talked to me a little bit here and there, not much. I stayed outside, ended up finishing up my cigar. Went inside, we hung out and started talking. I didn't even start watching anything yet. No Hulu, no nothing yet. And she started talking about concerns and fears and, over, just like if her dad's health is bad and so on and so forth, and a lot of those different things. And what happens, in that scenario? Do we need to start looking at buying a house that we can move him into and kind of things? And a couple of places we looked at, one of the places in particular that I think would have worked completely for us, she wasn't willing to buy for us. She basically poo-pooed, and she now admits the fact that she poo-pooed because she didn't think it was nice enough for her father to live in. And I'm like, well, right now, this was our money buying him a house, not selling his house, not taking his money, not nothing. And maybe if he needs something, I don't know, the extra help and the care and the stuff, maybe we need to not worry about so much of having him be in such a nice place, because then we're now putting ourselves in horrible amounts of debt, because that house we could have literally sold our place, bought that place for cash with what we had in savings. So a little more in our place, but not much. And I had an in-law suite, which would have been plenty big enough for him. Much more modern, much newer. Or we would have put him in the full house, which was more out of date. We would have lived in the new build-on part and had the smaller place, which is dumb. You have two, people who are paying the bills and living in the small side, where the other man lives in the full house, but he has all of his collections and all his, memorabilia and all of his everything all over the place. And paring down to the smaller size would be harder for him, I think, in the long run. Or, well, at least in the beginning, he would have had a little, tizzy on it. So it's one of those things where then she admitted that, well, since we don't know what we're doing, because if we're paying for this and we're giving up our freedom and our life and that thing to help take care of him, maybe having him in an extra fancy house that we now owe $300,000 on or some junk, or $400,000 on, depending on what we find, is not as important as it could be. So we're going to see what happens there. We kind of talk. We talked about her son. We talked about, her uncle. We talked about, all the other stuff. Like I said, her aunt and uncle had their two children died, one day apart. Like, they have nobody now that they would have been helping take care of them, take them to the doctor, and, as they get older and things that happen and stuff, and she wonders if that becomes partly her burden and whatnot. And then, we talked about a lot of heavy crap, but unfortunately she waits until like we're ready to go to bed when she wants to have these talks, and then we're still up at 1 o'clock in the morning having these talks, where we could have had this talk at 9 o'clock at night and would have been in bed by midnight, instead of starting at 10 o'clock at night and then running until 1 in the morning kind of thing. So it is what it is. She'll be extra tired in the morning, and it'll make for a crappy start to the week, but that's what happens, I guess, when you wait till the last minute to start talking about things. So that's about all we got for right now. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have yourself a safe, wonderful day. Thanks for watching.